join us later will get to see what we are sharing. Okay, so I'll take you right to my screen and we'll begin our subject matter. I'd like you to write down things. That's the only way you can learn. That's the only way you can learn, when you write down things. When you write down things. Okay. Okay, I think we are good now. So we're looking at icebreakers in public speaking. Icebreakers in public speaking. So we'll identify what icebreakers are. And then, like I said earlier, if you're writing down anything, icebreakers or an icebreaker is a facilitation tool. What that suggests to you is that there are other facilitation tools. What is facilitation? Whatever you do on stage to enhance learning. So you very often do not hear people say, oh, I'm a facilitator. Facilitation is a unique kind of public speaking. It's an expression. It really involves the audience. It really engages the audience. It's participatory. And very often, some educators and people who are involved in public speaking will say that they would prefer you to facilitate a meeting than just to present. If you've listened to me severally, I usually say that there's a difference between speaking to people and speaking with people. So you can speak to people. When you speak to people, what you're doing is just presentation. But when you are speaking with people, you are interacting with them. That's interaction, and that is engagement. And if you know what I'm talking about, realize that speaking with people is a lot more engaging than just speaking to people. So what we're learning today is how we can speak with people, how we can use tools to facilitate the learning process, how we can use tools to engage the audience a lot more, how we can use tools to pass across a message in such a way that people are impressed upon and people are persuaded to do what we have them do. Plus this topic, icebreakers in public speaking. Before I go on, I'd like to quote a few persons, which is Carl Buchner or Buchner or Buchner, however it's pronounced. I know it's a German name. And this man said something remarkable. He says, they may forget what you said, but they will not, or they will never forget how you made them feel. Every time you speak at any conference, meeting, whether it's a small meeting or a big meeting, think experience. What did I say? Every time you speak in a small meeting or a big meeting, think experience. Experience is more important than the content. People leave events with experience. People reminisce moments. Moments are what is more important to people than the content that you share. And while we spend so much time trying to work on our content, trying to make sure that we have details and points, we leave out that very spicy part of speaking that enables us to deliver and get top-notch acceptance and help get us to deliver much top-notch speeches. We leave out experience. People don't just want to hear you, they want to experience you. That's what Carl Buchner is saying. And I think I fully agree. Let's define what an icebreaker is, or what is an icebreaker. If you look at the picture there, you see ice blocks, all right? And in certain places, I think in Australia and in certain cold regions, Alaska in America, and the Antarctica, there are a few places where you can see large blocks of ice. I even know that these people have a name for different kinds of ice. So we have ice in the sea, and they have names. The snow that falls, they have particular names. They have a feel, they have a texture, they have a color, so people know the difference. And usually when we say break ice, we assume that you're using an axe or something to just break, excuse me, to break the ice in such a way that people can be more acceptable. Get to see what the definition is shortly. This is a very important definition you want not only to write down, but to think about. It will inform your presentations, your facilitation, as it were. An icebreaker is an activity. So underline the word activity. Icebreakers are not necessarily spoken. They could be spoken, but even if they are spoken, they are activity driven. Icebreakers are activities. Is an activity or a game. Surprise, surprise. So an icebreaker can be a game. Can you speak and then do some kind of short game while you're speaking? Yes, because icebreakers are a facilitation tool, and they are meant to engage the audience. Ultimately, it's the feedback that the audience gives to you that is really the goal of communication. Communication is about feedback, quality feedback. Communication is about effective, quality feedback. So if the audience is not engaged enough to deliver on what your content says they should, then communication is not as effective. So if you have to use activities to get that done, go ahead. If you have to use a game, go ahead. So icebreakers are activities or games that are used to welcome, so they can be used to welcome, and they can also be used to warm up the conversation among participants in a meeting, team building session, or an event. So we see a few things there. They can be used to warm up conversations. You can warm up a conversation with one or two persons, one-on-one sessions. You can use icebreakers to warm up a group of people, your staff, a team. You can do it in meetings, small meetings, board of trustee meetings. You can use icebreakers for team building sessions. You want your team members to bond. And of course, you can use icebreakers in an event. So like I said earlier, an icebreaker is a facilitation exercise intended to help members of a group to begin the process of forming themselves into a team. So we can say that if you are a leader of some sort in your organization, in the civil service, in your church, you need to begin to develop icebreakers that helps your group to bond, begin to create activities, begin to create strategies, begin to create ice-breaking games that get people to bond, especially if you're trying to form a team. All right? Icebreakers are commonly presented as a game to warm up the group by helping members to get to know each other. So as we'll get to realize, sometimes you could use icebreakers to get people to know each other. You can use icebreakers to get people to know themselves. All right, so this is so very important. Now, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of icebreakers? If you look at this picture, we had one of our classes here in the city of Uyo, where we had a few students. And then notice that I'm interacting with the beautiful lady out there and trying to show the lady a few things. All right, so and if people are, I don't know if we have other things, but let's quickly look at the purpose of icebreakers. We see that an icebreaker should be related to the subject or the purpose of the meeting. In fact, that's what makes it very powerful. When the icebreaker you have chosen, the game you have chosen, the activity you have chosen is related to the topic, oh, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It's related to the title, or related to the subject, or related to the point. Do you know that you can use an icebreaker as your opener, as your primacy? For those of you following, we know that primacy is your opening or your introduction. So you can use an icebreaker for your opener. And of course, if you're going to do that, the icebreaker should lead to your first point. To your first point. I was in Eket a few days ago, and I was talking about the importance of action. And I was telling the audience, I said, a lot of people don't take action. People think that they do. They think they're proactive or they take initiative, but they really don't take action. And I said to them that I was going to prove to them that people don't take action. So I got out some money from my pocket and I said, I love this person. I love everyone here. And I have this money to give to anyone who loves me and I love the person. If you're really interested in getting this money, come and pick the money. If you're really interested in getting money, come. Who wants this money? The question I was, who wants this money? I didn't say come pick the money. I said, who wants this money? And I had people raising up their hands, people saying, standing up, people mouthing, I want it. And I kept asking. We had a sizable number of people. I kept asking and asking until it dawned on somebody that this person must be serious. The lady walked out straight to me and I gave the money to her. And people were like, no, I was the first person to raise up my hand. I was the first person to say, I want that money. But I just said to them, I said, you know what, guys, the proof of desire is pursuit. You don't truly desire a thing until you pursue it. I already told you guys earlier that less than 10% of people don't take action. When they come for meetings like this, don't take action. And I said I was going to prove it, and I just proved it. So that ice-breaking activity was used to pass across the strong message on action, on being proactive, on taking an initiative, on pursuing your dreams. So an icebreaker should be related to the subject or the purpose of the presentation. If a collaborative learning environment is needed for a training project, then an icebreaker exercise that promotes collaboration could be chosen. There are times when you break the group, you break the audience into groups. I've gone for a meeting before by one of my coaches, someone who trains me, who teaches and shares me. And in that meeting, we spent 7 hours with those people, with him. When we're coming to the room, the room where the training was going to hold, we're divided into different groups, all right? And we're made to collaborate. We're made to engage in conversation. So icebreakers can be that. Again, it can be done in small groups, and sometimes smaller groups, icebreakers will be more effective when you use them in small groups, okay? It can be very, very powerful. Icebreakers help people to get to know each other and buy into the purpose of the events. So if you want people to know each other and you put them into groups and you create or you do certain icebreakers that get them to welcome themselves, that is also a very powerful way to get to people to know each other and then buy into the purpose of the event. Icebreakers are activities designed. So again, you hear the word activities, very important, and they are designed. So you don't just come to the stage and come up with them. They are actually designed. They are put together. They are thought about. I usually will give my students assignment. I'll say, go to YouTube, go to Google and search for icebreakers for your next meeting, for that corporate meeting. You think the people who are in the corporate circle won't appreciate your icebreaking activities? I mean, you want to MC an occasion and then you don't have icebreakers. How effective would you be? You want to MC a corporate event or you want to MC a wedding. You know that wedding MCs are very good at using icebreakers. All right, so icebreakers are activities designed to engage the audience and get them ready to listen to what you're about to say. Icebreakers, however, should be relaxing, okay? Because the idea is to break them from that stiffness they already have. It should be non-threatening. For example, icebreakers in a professional setting should not require people to reveal personal information or to touch each other, as this may be stressful or culturally inappropriate. So there are times, so even though we say icebreakers really engage the audience, it matters what kind of audience you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a unique kind of audience, then you want to be careful not to just use icebreakers indiscriminately. You have to be careful. They have to be relaxing, non-threatening. They don't get people to reveal personal information. The icebreakers that do that, but in certain environments, that may not suffice. That may not be the best. So, anything that will get people to be embarrassed. They should not embarrass the participants or make them feel compelled to participate. They should not also show disrespect for any social or professional hierarchies in the group, as this can be uncomfortable for participation or for participants. Now, so the goal of icebreakers is to get people to work with each other. So icebreakers must be relaxing, non-threatening. They must not allow people to reveal too much information. Actually, if it's a professional stuff, or get themselves to get to touch themselves if it's not appropriate, or do something culturally inappropriate, all of that. So that's very important. Now, when do you use icebreakers? You can use icebreakers before your presentation, all right? To open or before your presentation. Fantastic way. You can use icebreakers in between your presentation. Maybe you're trying to share a certain point. I do that very often. Like the times I want to talk about priority, I have an icebreaker for priority. I want to talk about teamwork or team building, team bonding, team strategy. I have an icebreaker for that. You want to talk about, I want to get to know people and call them by their names. Yesterday, we talked about remembering people's names. You want to know people's names, and I get them to get a piece of paper, fold it into 3 equal parts, fold a piece of paper into 3 equal parts, and then place them on the table so I can identify the names. I do that in corporate functions. So that's before, and then I can do it in between the presentation. All right, and I can do it after they close. So there are different, you can do icebreakers. I use icebreakers as my transitioning technique to transition from one point to another, or to transition from one subject matter to another subject matter. Trainers mistakenly think trainees need to be serious to listen to what they are saying or what you are saying. Trainees may come intense from a prior activity. So as a speaker, you want to be aware of that. Icebreakers are effective ways to encourage group dynamics. We already said that, get people to work together as a team and to get your presentation on a good start. So I spoke at an event, and when I was called up, the event was a church event, so I was in church. And the first thing I did was, they said, let's welcome Judge Essien. So I'm coming on the stage and people are clapping for me. Of course, the audience don't really know me as much, so they are clapping in a manner that is not very exciting. They're doing that because their pastor has invited me up. So I switched the call for claps. I say, you know what, let's put our hands together for the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And you see, from that low round of applause to something very loud and very prominent. And I told them, let us also appreciate God with the sound. So you see, that audience becomes shouting just because I'm on stage. That activity I just done is an icebreaker. Now, when you're done shouting, because I was talking about greatness within you, a 3-day session on talking about greatness. And when it was time for me to speak, I now told them, hold your neighbor in his hands and look at the neighbor eyeball to eyeball. Now, this is a church setting. And I noticed that when I told them to look at themselves eyeball to eyeball, people were very uncomfortable. I said, if your neighbor is not looking at you, maybe the person is suffering from glossophobia. The place erupted into laughter. And I said, tell the neighbor, there is more to you than meets the eyes. And they said it to themselves. And I said, I don't think your neighbor heard you. Tell neighbor again, neighbor, there is more to you than meets the eyes. And they said it one more time, loudly. I said, if you believe what you've just said, walk up to 4 people and tell them that statement emphatically, neighbor, there's more to you than meets the eyes. And you see the environment change. People said to walk about and do that. At the end of the meeting, I told them to clap for themselves. And they sat down. So what I just did was do my icebreaker at the beginning and to introduce them, get them to interact with themselves, and then introduce my presentation to them, because I'm already telling them that, look, there's more to you than meet the eyes. You are a great person. So icebreakers are effective ways to encourage group dynamics and to get your presentation on a good start. Icebreakers It involves people, it relaxes people, and it opens the lines of communication between the participants and each other, between you and the participants. Your quality of feedback will be higher. People will give you the feedback you're seeking when you use icebreakers. I use this icebreaker a lot for people who are interested in money. And I tell them, I said, look, the destination of this guy, I live in the city in Uyo here. Uyo from Lagos is like moving from one part of the earth to another part, literally or figuratively. That's actually an hyperbole or a hyperbole. And this woman's intention is to move them from my city Uyo, move her kids from my city Uyo down to Lagos. How long will it take her to do this, embark on this journey? How long? Now, she probably won't even reach there in a month. She will get tired. She'll get weary in trying to use this vehicle to undertake that trip. Okay, so let's look out for someone who has a better vehicle. This guy wants to move his passengers from Uyo is in the southern part of Nigeria, to the southwest part of Nigeria. How long will it take this guy to undertake that journey? It will take him quite a while, right? Yes, it will take him quite a while. Maybe a week, or maybe, yes, a week, or 4 days, if he keeps going, and if his tricycle doesn't get bad, or his keke, as we call it, doesn't get bad, he can make that journey. Okay, so let's look at another vehicle. This is an old Peugeot station wagon. How long will it take this vehicle to reach its destination from the city of Uyo, southern part of Nigeria, to the southwestern part of Nigeria? All right, taking quite a while. So let's look at another picture. All right. Oh, this is a very beautiful vehicle. Same journey. Now, the previous one would take the driver maybe around 24 hours, all things being equal. But of course, this vehicle will take you a shorter period of time. Maybe in 8 hours or 9 hours, you're in Lagos from Uyo. And there's another vehicle you can also take. This vehicle, Ibom Air is a vehicle, is a plane we use in the airport here in Akwa Ibom. Will take you 45 to 55 minutes to move from the southern part of Nigeria to the southwestern part of Nigeria. And of course, if you're going to use a jet, as this fighter jet, it will take you 20 minutes or less to get to your destination. So the first thing we want to ask is, what kind of vehicle are you driving? And how many vehicles are you driving? And I said that I will often tell my audience, this vehicle, this particular thing is actually a metaphoric statement. I'm asking you, what vehicle are you driving? What financial vehicle are you driving? So I've used that picture. So again, pictures and slides can be used as icebreakers, to introduce your subject matter, to talk about anything. Icebreakers revives, it's supposed to be revived, not revives. Icebreakers revive feeling energy in an audience. All the praise the Lord, all this greatest bossa, that is an icebreaker. All this greatest point, all of that are icebreakers. Greatest Nigerians, those are icebreakers to get people to revive their energy. So if you come for an event and the people in that event have been sitting down and they are tired and for long, and you're my student, what do? You use an icebreaker to revive their energy. Because when it comes to speaking, this is the attention curve, energy and time. As you start off the day, people become interested, they're excited, but at a certain point, it gets to a plateau, and then it begins to nosedive over a course, actually in the body, begins to nosedive. So what you do is that you have to intervene. That arrow where you have intervene here is where you now use an icebreaker to get back the audience to listen to you. There are times when we do icebreakers, and icebreakers actually stimulate creativity. Like when we did some training on goal setting, we did it at the beginning of the year. This young man who is actually doing this thing, he did a vision board, and a vision board of stuff. And he actually put that he wants to get a car. And I do know that he came to the office the other day and told me he had gotten the car. He had invested $3 million to get the car. I was so excited. So we put together stuff for our vision board, for our goals and our dreams. And we did that at the beginning. So vision board exercise is an icebreaker for goal setting sessions. So icebreakers stimulate creativity. That's one thing you notice about that. Icebreakers also equalize, that's a mistake too. Icebreakers equalize differences among attendees. People from all walks of life can participate in an icebreaker. Icebreakers encourages people to look at the world in new ways. We have plenty of errors here. Ogechi has to work on this slide. Icebreakers encourages people to look at the world in new ways. All right, that's also very striking. Even though we do icebreakers, there are reactions. People who dislike icebreakers may be reacting to a previous experience with irrelevant, pointless, or poorly designed icebreakers. There are times when certain facilitators or certain public speakers or certain presenters, who do unnecessary, pointless, irrelevant icebreakers. So like I said to you, your icebreakers must have a point, a reason why you're doing that, so that it makes more sense. Participants may also show aspects of their personality, as people with different personalities or learning styles respond differently to the same exercise. There are times I've done icebreakers and people just don't want to participate for whatever reason. Or maybe people like content more than they like activities. These guys are more content driven than they are visual or feeling driven. And so they want you to get right into your subject matter than do all of those boring games. So that's the reactions you get sometimes when you engage icebreakers. Icebreakers help people to know and to learn about each other, more about each other, that's for sure. It also enables people to integrate and connect, so you can form a team, even with your staff, members that work with you, get people to feel relaxed and more comfortable. Icebreakers can help people start conversations and help enhance communication. Icebreakers can help people build trust and break down barriers. So you need to use icebreakers. If you're a leader, a supervisor, a speaker, a facilitator, icebreakers will come in handy. Icebreakers encourage receptivity into both listening and contributing. Because we do icebreakers, people want to participate, they want to contribute, they want to be heard. People support what they have created. They want to be involved in that experience. Icebreakers encourage people to break out of their own department or clique. Icebreakers energize and motivate participants. And again, icebreakers inspire creativity and imagination. So there are a lot of icebreakers you can begin to dig out from the internet. You can check out Google, you can check out YouTube, you can check out Facebook, and begin to look up for facilitation tools, icebreakers and facilitation tools. You can just do a Google search on that and see how you can customize these icebreakers to your next presentation. So that's me speaking to in a company, and that was a few years ago, DHL. And if you look at their hands are busy. Before I went on to teach, I did some kind of exercise with them. And the exercise was really to talk about their creativity. And if you notice them, a lot of them were closing their eyes. So let's look at the kinds of icebreakers, different kinds of icebreakers. We have introducers. Now, I want you to be careful about introducers. Because it has a dual meaning. The first thing is that introducers are those activities or games or even words that you say to that helps you in your opening session, in your primacy, that makes your primacy engaging. Those things you do at the beginning of your presentation that makes your primacy means your opening, your introduction, more engaging. They're called introducers. Those activities that you do. There's this video I shared in the class. This man wanted to talk about a silent disease called hypertension. And then he came on stage. And when he came on stage, he reached out into his pocket, brought out a cigarette, opened it, put the cigarette in his mouth, and was about to light it When he noticed the strange reaction of people, he just said, what? He now removed the smoke, the cigarette from his mouth and said to them, he had not lighted it yet. He said, do you know that most of you are afraid that I'm going to smoke and that this thing can kill me? Do you know that more people die from a silent disease called hypertension than from this cigarette in my hands? And then he began his presentation. Amazing, amazing. This is another video we play in class, in live class, and probably will send you the video links of this lady or this guy who walks into the audience and he greets the audience and he says, you know what? Most of us are like this rose in my hands. He brought out a rose from his pocket and he said, life becomes so harsh and hard on us and gets us to become broken. And even though we are beautiful, like this rose in our hand, life peels us and begins to peel the rose and puts the rose in a trash bin right there in front of him. In describing how life crushes us. I mean, you see that exercise, that's an icebreaker. There is another person who comes on stage and he was talking about money, the value of money. And he just said, how much is this? He said, that is $100 bill. Then he squeezes it in his hands. And then he opened it up again and said, how much is this? What's the value of this? The person said it's $300 bill. Then he placed it on the floor and he jumped on it again and again and again and again. And he lifted it up and he said, how much is this? And Bill said, it's still $100 bill. And then he put water on it. And he lifted up and he said, how much is this? He said, it's still $100 bill. Then he said that it doesn't matter how much life crushes you, how much life put pressure on you, you are still very valuable. So those things we do at the beginning of a presentation, as part of our primacy, they're called introducers. If you're writing, that's important. There are also those things we do to warm up, like look at your neighbor eyeball to eyeball, greet your neighbor, meet and greet activities. Those are introducers. So let's look at a few of them. Often when people get together for the first time, they do not know each other or know one another. Introductory icebreakers or introductory icebreaker games and activities not only help people to begin to know each other, but also help them to recognize and appreciate differences and similarities. So there are times when you want to get people to know themselves and you tell them, please introduce, like I was doing that already. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself as a fruit. Introduce yourself as as a fruit. So I identify with the coconut or identify with the kola nut or, just for the fun of it. And then that is also very, very powerful. Introductory icebreakers can be as simple as asking each person to tell the group their name or one fact about themselves, or they can be complicated exercises designed to build trust and a desire to work together. So again, any exercise you do at the beginning of your presentation is an introducer, or anything that helps people to build trust, any activity is an introducer. All the raise your hands, meet your friend, tell them it's an introducer. And you could use it in small group meetings, in team building sessions, and sometimes in big meetings, depending on how much you can control. Now, the second kind of icebreakers are called energizers. Now, what are energizers? Energizers are more, they're used to energize or to emphasize a point. They used to revitalize the group, they used to transition to a new topic, and they're used to emphasize points. You want to use energizers to emphasize points. Now, the interesting thing about energizers is that energizers tend to be loud and physical. Loud and physical. A few years ago, I was in a meeting. I think that must have been 3 years ago. I went for this meeting. I think it was in December. And they had been sitting down, all participants were sitting down for a long time, about 20 of them. It was a round table conference. And I was supposed to just come inspire them for a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes. I noticed that people were sitting down for a while. I not told them to stand up, carry all their bags, and change their seats. And when I noticed that they were very reluctant, I told them, you know what? When life comes your way, when life happens to you, it'll force you to change. And because I said that, people began to realize that life will come when you don't expect it and force you to change. So change, become comfortable with change. I even use that to begin my presentation. But the fact that they moved, they stood up, carried their bags, and moved to another seat is an energizer. When you get people to shout, when you get people to scream, when you get people to rearrange the room, to stretch, to do aerobics, to do breathing exercise, anything that literally energizes people is an energizer. And it's quite powerful. There's this exercise that I don't have time to cover. One of these I'm going to teach you is a web of strength. And I'll show you a picture, a literal picture of it done. May forget what they hear, but they will not forget moments like this. They won't forget lessons. Role play. There's something called, when it comes to facilitation, we call role play, where people can act and pretend. And when you create scenarios, when you give them assignments to do, and they have groups to work and discuss in it, and they have a team leader that comes up with the final presentation in that particular session, these are very powerful ways to gather people. I do this exercise a lot to people, and I get them to, to close their eyes. I give them certain instructions, and just by giving them certain instructions, they're able to create these beautiful things you're seeing right now. And I tell them that, yes, I use that to teach a lot. For example, I use that to teach that we can hear the same instructions, but the results that we get is quite different. So that's the challenge of leadership. Challenge of leadership is getting us to align, to do the same thing, to work together. And so we're hearing the same instructions because our eyes are closed, we're producing different results. And also use that to talk about the fact that we're all unique and different. So that exercise is quite a powerful one. And that is me speaking at an event where people were smiling. These are millionaires for a meeting. And I got them to exercise, to jump, to dance. And it was so much fun because I understand the facilitation tool called Icebreakers. All right. So, it can be that. Now, there are a few things like get to know you icebreakers. Get to know you icebreakers. Icebreakers are frequently presented in the form of a game to warm a group by helping the members to get to know each other. They often focus on sharing information such as names, personal facts, and hobbies. Getting to know you icebreakers also help people who already know each other to be more acquainted. We have team building icebreakers. Team building, many icebreaker games are intended to help a group to begin the process of forming themselves into teams or into a team or teams. Some teamwork icebreakers, such as building activities, aid group dynamics by building trust, communication, and the ability to work together. All right. We have icebreaker questions. So what we're looking here are different kinds of icebreakers. We've just done energizers. We now have get to know you icebreakers. That's a form of an icebreaker. We have team building icebreakers. You can look up for them. And then we have icebreaker questions. So a question can be an icebreaker, As the name implies, icebreaker questions simply elicit information from people in an effort to get them comfortable and relaxed. Icebreaker questions can be serious or funny. When you bring out the subject matter and the idea is for you to get a few responses before you start your presentation. It's okay, I have a very important question to ask. And then you drop in. And how do you handle breakup? Who here has had a breakup and you want to just share your experience? Well, that could be very deep. That could be very deep. Maybe somebody, okay, let me just say something about this. All right. Or you bring up a very controversial topic or something very stimulating and you get people to start having that conversation. And from the lessons you've learned or the lessons people have shared, you can start your presentation. The best icebreaker questions are designed specifically for an identified age and purpose and prepare people for activities or experience that follow. So icebreaker questions are very important. Other icebreakers, and this is the last slide. You can begin, a story can be an icebreaker. You can begin a story and not finish it. All right. You can ask a question. You can get people to change your seats. You can do breathing exercises. You can get people to raise their hands up. You can get them to introduce themselves as a fruit. You can break news and all of that. So icebreakers begin to, I'm going to give you an assignment to do. And the goal is to get you to make sure that you are able to write down at least 10 icebreakers you can use for your next presentation. At least 10 icebreakers you can use for your next presentation. Let me know if you got value. At least 10 exercises that you can use for your next presentation. 10 icebreakers. And the goal is now, if your event is a corporate event, think of icebreakers you can use in corporate event. Icebreakers can be stories, can be questions, can be games, can be activities, can be all kinds of things. So don't limit, let your mind really spread. Let your mind really spread. And you'll be surprised at what results you get. You become a very stimulating speaker, a more engaging communicator. People want to listen to you. I'd like to conclude my thoughts or close by saying that people don't just want to hear you, they want to experience you. And icebreakers and other facilitation tools enables that to be possible. Let me get feedback from you guys. You can unmute yourself now. Let me get feedback from you guys. You can unmute yourself. Let me get feedback from you guys. All right, go ahead, Chizabam. You have any question or you have you want to make some contribution? Go ahead now.
No question at all. But I really got value from the class because this is my first time in joining this public speaking class.
Well, amazing.
This is my first time. This is my first time, and I really got value for it. And there are some things you said earlier which I'm not conversant with.
What are they?
You said something about, is it premise or so?
What did you say? What? Okay, primacy and residency.
Okay. That's what I didn't get.
Do you have my WhatsApp number?
Yeah, I do, sir.
Catch me up after this class.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Okay, sir. Yeah,
Any other contribution? Any other contribution?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the class. I'm Rubis. Mine is not a question per se. Is it every time you have to use?
Who's speaking?
Rubis and Young, I say.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Is it every time you have to use the icebreaker? If you have a presentation, you get on stage and the audience is already charged and you start your presentation, could you go all the way without an icebreaker?
I wouldn't go all the way. I'm a communicator. My goal is to create experiences and moments.
Like if your audience already charged, like there are some audiences you have and they're already like saying high spirits and you're flowing with them.
Yeah, they are not in high spirits for you. They are in high spirits for other speakers and other moments. So what to make them, you want to leave your presence with them. You want to make them become in high spirits for you. So share your own experience with them. And I'm not saying that you should overdo icebreakers, but don't get it wrong. There are different kinds of public speaking settings. We have formal settings. There are certain settings where that too many of it may not be appropriate. In fact, doing an energizer may just be out of it. You most likely want to stay with something light. Humor is also an icebreaker. Some light humor or light questions. You need to incorporate it. Make sure that you're getting feedback from the audience, and that's good. Showing slides, it's more impactful to show slides with dramatic pictures than just doing the presentation. Like what I did in the last 3 days in an event, I did slides throughout, and it was so engaging. People were so captured by the pictures because pictures speak 1,000 words. That is a nice break. So so be selective, but make sure you give people an experience that they won't forget. All right.
It means knowing the appropriate icebreaker to use for
use. So that's something I'm giving everyone now. I'm saying that you should write down 10 icebreakers. I know I've given you guys a lot of assignments, but please just do these things. Write down 10 icebreakers for corporate functions, for emceeing your occasion. MCs who are clowns for children, they have a lot of games to engage children. Children are the most difficult to handle. And then you see these guys, they keep engaging the audience, the children for a while. Those things they do, those games, icebreakers. There's a form of education called the Montessori form of education. what's her name again? Was it Mary Montessori? She was an Italian educator who came up with a model of teaching pupils that were autistic, who were slow in learning. And her methodology include using games and using certain sounds and using certain colors to pass across the knowledge. Rather than use A, B, C, D, in a Montessori school, we use up. No, and with that methodology, she was able to get fantastic results with kids. And so a lot of students, a lot of schools, even in Lagos, in Abuja, they embrace the Montessori form of education because it has a lot of color-driven activities, songs, icebreakers, all kinds of pictures, images, models. And there are certain schools I know that use the Montessori model of education, even if the kids are not autistic or not dyslexic or not disadvantaged kids. Even if they're normal kids, these ideas also help enhances their education, enhances a part of their brain, not just the left part of their brain, but the right part that is creative. Because you see, full education is not just when you are functioning in your left part, because a lot of people function very well with their left part, the critical, constructive part. There's also the right part of the brain that is creative, and people leave that part untapped. And so what the Montessori form of education does is that it helps you to not just work on your left part, the reasoning, logical part, but the creative part of you. So a lot of schools use the Montessori form of education to enhance learning, and the kids come out to be fantastic. There are people who say, no, okay, there's another father, I've forgotten his name, also Presley, is it Presley? So who has a model, who has a teaching methodology that helps students and even adults to learn. All right. So these things, there are certain schools that will say, okay, no, let's do hybrid. Hybrid is you're combining the British form of education or the American form of education with Montessori. Now, I talked about education, this educational concept, because it helps you understand how icebreakers and how these facilitation methodologies helps your children to grow. Most of us have turned out not very good because we're not taught using models and using these tools. Okay, so if our children are going to fantastic schools, even at the university, that focus on these models, these methods, you will see them turn out to become brighter. That's why Americans turn out brighter than a lot of Nigerians. We're very theoretical. We use a lot of our left brain, but in America, people, they see things they're learning. So as a speaker, as a communicator, you want to do that. You want to use that. You want to try to incorporate these dynamics in your presentation so that your presentation is more engaging. Have I made any sense to you? All right. Let's hear some more people ask us questions or make contributions. Mrs. Chubi, so you want to say something? Victor, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, ma. I'm waiting.
Okay. Thank you so much value this evening. I have been in this class more than 4 times in 1 year. I can't remember, but this Icebreakers class. And each time I attend class, I pick a new thing. Before, I didn't know slides are part. Secondly, that that section you talked about picking up a particular currency, squashing it, trying to step on it, and asking the audience, and the value is still the same. It's a very powerful one. And, it can be used anywhere. And yes, and also today I got to know that your icebreaker to start with an icebreaker should be related to the subject.
Yes. Or to your
I didn't know that before
point.
now. Yes.
Okay.
It should be related to your first point, right?
Yes. Either the subject or your first point. So that it does lead to your primacy. It does lead to your opening seamlessly.
Yes.
Like if you did that exercise of squatting a dollar, stepping on it, and then and people now are excited, you now say, so today I'm speaking about you are valuable, irrespective of life. That is already striking. They're like, wow, this is amazing. So you can go on from there. It will impact kids, it will impact all the adults. It will impact anybody. All right.
Yes.
Well,
another thing I got was that people don't just want to hear you, they want to experience you.
Yes,
so,
that's the word.
And when I related it, is actually very powerful, because when you present that kind of icebreaker, it's an experience they will never forget.
They won't forget it,
It's an experience they will never forget, especially when something wants to put them down. They remember all that and they'll brave up again. Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you so much.
You know, there's a Chinese word that says that what I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I experience. And so what you just said is so very striking. God bless you. I noticed that Victor. Yes, Victor, go ahead and ask a question or make a contribution.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Victor, which of the Victors now?
This is Victor Amusho.
Victor, you've been attending classes these days. Amazing. Welcome. Well done.
Yes, this is my second time on the class, actually. Good evening, sir.
Okay. All right, well done.
I want to say a very big thank you. Big thank you. Actually, I've been getting a lot of value since you added me. But concerning today's class, icebreakers, I think I use icebreakers quite a lot in my speeches. Places I've been invited to speak. I've been using them, but I really didn't know that what I was doing was icebreakers, but they've been very, very instrumental.
Okay.
Like the other time I was in Adamawa, to train core members on employability skill, I introduced a question at the interview level where I asked core members how they can attend to the boss of a company, can attend to a customer and the CEO at the same time without conflicting interest. It was a question that steered participation. And at the end of that, my talk, I discovered that, in fact, the course I went there to register people, I had more than 200 people register once. That was the major breakthrough I had.
At how much? Huh? How much
it was a professional course of 20,000 naira.
And you had 200 people pay you 20,000 naira. Wow, because you used icebreaker.
Just because of that icebreakers. So I never knew what I did was an icebreaker, but then it was like a last stroke that broke the camel's back in my public speaking engagement. So I want to say a very big thank you once again, and God bless you, sir.
So now that you know, you do it more. So icebreakers can help you to get more markets. If you're a marketer and you're listening and you're in this class, icebreakers can enable you sell market more because people experience it and people are more responsive that way. Well done, Victor. It's good to see you and good to hear from you. If another person want to make a comment, please, it's a public speaking class. So I'd like us to make a comment before we shut down. Make your contributions briefly. We're almost done. In fact, we're done, but just make contributions. Let's get to know that you got value. Ife, talk to us. Ife, you want talk to us. All right. Benson. Okay, Ife,
hello.
are you talking? Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay, Coach. No, I'm not new to the class again.
I'm know, yes, you're a graduate.
Okay, my name is Ife. I'm a sales consultant, and I'm also a business person. I just joined the class to reinforce my knowledge on icebreakers. I'm already a graduate, but because learning is continuous, and I keep learning new things. Like today again, and now I've gotten some new values again. So I added it to what I already know already. So there's nothing too much, too new about it. Just for me to keep reinforcing and keep practicing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also know that you also taught it in class. That's
great. Yes, I taught it in class. I said, well, let me just listen to this class again and see what I need to correct. So in case of my other class, I have to.
You can do it better.
Can do it better, yes.
All right, that's good. Well done. Well done. All right. So who else again is saying something? Benson, let's hear you. You're into speaking. You should tell us something. Okay, Chidima Udo, you want to say something?
Oh
Okay.
yes, it's my first time in the public speaking class. So, and I've gotten a lot of value. I was jotting a lot of things. I'm like, where have I been all this while? I've not been speaking. Like I don't have any engagement, any public speaking engagement yet. Just like I said in the beginning, trying to learn, to expose myself to learning and to the space, the online space, and equip myself for what I know I'm preparing, the future I'm preparing to get into. So thank you so much. And as a teacher, I know it's essential. Like I've learned I've learned a technique or a strategy to get my students to get involved in the class, in a learning process from there. And what I've done now.
That's fantastic. All right, so I look forward to having a conversation with you on WhatsApp. Chat me up on WhatsApp. Let's take this to the next level. All right.
Thank you so much.
One last person before we shut down for today. Anybody wants to say something? Annie, you want to say something? Annie, you want to say something?
Just to say thank you. You know, I've learned a lot. I benefit a lot from
Okay, you're taking this class severally.
Yeah, severally. But just as the penultimate speaker said, we learn every day.
Okay.
Listening to read again, I've learned something new today. And one thing that really I've really reinforced is the fact that you cannot do without stories when speaking in public. So imagine beginning in a sermon with a story, an illustration. Can be scriptural, can be something from the secular. And you know, I'm serving in a rural area, so rural evangelism.
It was so interesting.
So
public speaking course as a pastor. One wonder why a pastor would take a public speaking course, but because you see, there's a refinement that is associated with learning. As you learn and like becomes, you make it better. Your mind is broader. You're now a distinctive part, you know.
Yes. And it really helps. And moreover, the seminary has resumed. You know, I told you I teach at the seminary. Okay. So it really helps me in the lecturing process and driving home my points. The icebreakers, as you say. You know, a theological class, I turn it into more of a creative one, a practical one, so that it helps the students.
Amazing. Okay, so you're supposed to do some exams. I'm supposed to send you videos. Please, let's chat this WhatsApp. Let's do this chat again. WhatsApp. I switched phone.
Your private WhatsApp or the Podium Academy WhatsApp, because I've sent.
That's me. Chat me up personally. All right.
I'll give you the.
Then, if anyone you want to retrieve that certificate you have and give you another one, there's a correction we had to make. So please, if you have time, come around and get the correct one. All right. So thank you. Is there any other person? Somebody sending a message here, and that person is saying, thank you so much for the enlightenment. Very engaging, enlightening session. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this class. We'll continue. I will send you details when that time comes. If you have questions, you want to reach out to me, private chat to me. We have videos that will reinforce this that you probably need to watch. And we also have, slides that you can get, audio materials you can listen to, not just from me, but from other top speakers too, who teach on public speaking. So I want to appreciate you guys for joining this class. And I want to say God bless you. Have a great night and see